Do you want to put another microphone out there?
There is one.
There's one.
Oh, but just the one?
Okay. We're at 6:02.
All right, we call this meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. A couple of notes on a couple of things. There should be a sign-in sheet at the back. I think we are allowing public comments after the normal meeting is over, so please sign up if you wish to talk. You must sign up. We will hold public comments to just 2 minutes, so please be respectful of that. Mr. Shemp, is there any changes or updates to the agenda to tonight's meeting?
Yeah, the only thing we were going to hold off on the agenda was making decisions on a COVID leave bank was the only thing we're going to hold off on.
Okay.
Need to have a little bit more discussions there and get more input from teachers.
Very well. So with that, the item on the agenda is a revised North Central Park School Corporation COVID policy update. I believe that form has been circulated throughout there. Is that correct? Did Dwight make copies?
Does anybody need one?
Maybe nobody has gotten them yet.
Okay. Mr. Ashley was making more copies of those. I can start to read it while he's bringing those in, and it looks like Mrs. Seitz is going to maybe help as well. Nope, she's signing in. Okay, fair enough. We'll make sure you get some of those in your hands. I'll read it verbatim, word for word, and before you get out of here, we'll make sure you get one in your hand. This has been a challenging start to the year, to say the least. There's tons of change when it comes to school. This year started out, I would say, it's been a bigger challenge even than last year. I guess because our hopes were so high and we thought that things were going to calm down much more than they did when it's in relation to COVID. And that isn't entirely the case. And so instead we need to get back together and revisit, because we've got so many kids who are healthy missing school, and that's a major concern for us. The number of kids quarantined out of school is maybe more detrimental. It's definitely an absolute detriment to their academic performance. We're seeing that in a lot of different areas. I can tell you, and I don't think she's watching, but my wife teaches developmental preschool, and she has a lot more students who are not potty trained this year than she's ever had before. It's to that level that we're not getting some of the instruction done that we would normally get done in a normal year. And there are a lot of other examples of that, and I've heard that from other elementary principals and other elementary teachers. It may seem like a random example, but it is an example nonetheless. What I'd like to do is just go through the policy, and as Scott said there, we'll take comments at the end, and so here goes. The spread of germs in schools has always been a factor when it comes to the safety of students. Schools cannot mitigate every possible safety concern. This includes scenarios relevant to COVID-19. In consideration of this inability to guard for all harms, parents take a certain risk when sending their student to school. The North Central Park Community School Corporation endeavors to remove risks, but asserts that parents have the ultimate responsibility when it comes to student safety. After the start of the 21-22 school year, the corporation's student COVID positive and quarantine numbers exceeded those to start the 2020-2021 school year. Subsequently, the Board of Trustees has chosen to reconsider the policies and procedures in order to better provide for student academic success and wellness, due to the fact that the current ones do not appear sustainable, nor are they in the best interest of student academics or mental health. This updated policy statement will cover the most basic and highly contested issues pertinent to NCP's handling of the pandemic moving forward. Quarantines. If a student, I'll just read it word for word, sorry. Student will quarantine for 10 days from the outset of symptoms or the date of a positive test. Students may not return until they are symptom-free except for loss of taste and smell, for 24 hours without fever-reducing medications. A negative test is not required to return to school. Symptom-free close contact to a positive case. Student will remain at school so long as they are free of symptoms and the parent or guardian agrees to their attendance. Contact tracing. And we're getting word there may be some updates on contact tracing coming from the state on Wednesday anyways. We're always trying to play catch up here, but this is our stance for today on contact tracing. And I hate that it's one of those things you say for today, but that's what it is. This is our best situation right now. Close contacts will be notified. However, the school cannot guarantee that all close contacts will be found, as students spend a large part of each day outside of the school buildings and facilities. All participants in extracurricular activities will be traced with collaboration between the coach or sponsor and student parents. Parents are responsible for notifying the school of any positive cases in their household and are reminded that their asymptomatic student may attend school. Remote instruction, e-learning. The corporation decisions will be made on a school-by-school basis. If buildings do not have a sufficient number of staff members, that facility will move to remote instruction until an appropriate number of staff members are able to return. Extracurricular activities will continue during remote instruction. And I have a typo there, I missed a period. Hygiene and enhanced cleaning, safeguards. NCP has been utilizing a number of the safeguards that we had in place from last year as they relate to the pandemic. We will continue to implement these practices as deemed necessary and add to them as appropriate. These include the posting of signage regarding good hygiene, encouraging increased hand washing, limiting large groups in confined spaces as feasible, providing hand sanitizing stations, adding additional water filling stations, continuing the use of enhanced air filtration equipment in multiple locations throughout the corporation, opening windows and bringing in fresh air, having classes outside on occasion, seating students in fashions to improve distancing, utilizing assigned seating in classrooms, limiting visitors to buildings, etc. I'm going to the back side of the page if you're trying to catch up. Face coverings. Additional guidance. Masks are recommended and encouraged for all students and staff. Reviews and updates. Timeliness. These plans will be reviewed on an ongoing basis and may be adjusted at any time in consideration of community spread or factors outside the control of the corporation. Corporation officials will collaborate with healthcare professionals to make these determinations. Then the disclaimer. North Central Park Community School Corporation recognizes that the advent of school choice provides parents the right to decide what is best for their student by determining whether they wish to have their student attend a specific school corporation. While NCP endeavors to provide safeguards, parents have the ultimate responsibility when it comes to the health of their student. These updates have been made in collaboration with healthcare professionals. I know that the Park County health nurse was here earlier. Are you still here? Yep, Tanya's still here. Audra Long was involved in that, obviously, as one of our nurses. Our other nurses within the corporation, administrators. We've not had as much input from teachers yet at this point, other than anecdotal collection from what the principals brought to me that they heard from teachers. I've had discussions, but not as many as I'd like to have. And so when it comes to actual teacher policy, we'll get at that with that group to make sure that we're trying to live up to what that looks like. Right now, we're looking at mainly student quarantine, student contact tracing, how to deal with positive cases on the student side, essentially. Anything, does anyone want to add to that from the board?
Comments from board members? So generally at this time, if you would like, the public would like to make a comment on this, since it's on the agenda, you could do so at this time.
Or Tanya or Audra, if you have any input there, of course. Correct.
For those who are quarantined right now, so long as they are free to come back to school tomorrow, right?
So we'd like to go Wednesday only because there are so many to contact. and it's going to get really messy if we try to get it done by tomorrow. And we're trying to get out of the mess is what we're trying to do right now.
Other questions, comments from the public? Yes, ma'am.
If you are a positive case, you'll have to go through a quarantine. There's no required quarantine. A parent can choose to have their student quarantined when they will not be penalized for missing days. But so long as they remain healthy and symptom-free, they are not required to quarantine. Yeah, Tanya, do you want to give any details there? Here, let me put you on the spot for just a second.
That is what they recommended, but they left it up to the school board to determine what they wanted to follow in the
Well, we're absolutely following recommendations. What is the one that you think that I passed a microphone to Tanya, but I didn't get one to you. So what is the portion that you're concerned that we're not following?
I was going to say the quarantine.
Any symptomatic student, any student who's sick shouldn't be coming to school. We had, how many students had to be sent back home today that showed up sick? At least 2, I know, this morning, just from one building. Were sick, first thing this morning, had to get sent home. I know there was one that got sick while in class, and that happens. But we gotta leave the sick kids gotta be at home or somewhere else in the mornings other than coming to school. That's a major issue for us still. Okay, yeah, yes, that is the recommendation. That's not the requirement, but it is the recommendation. Yep, yep. So the goal of this is to get as many healthy kids back in school as we possibly can for their best mental health and academic success. And we constantly check our numbers. This morning when I first started writing a Post-it note to go talk to Audra from the central office, she had an X number of kids that were quarantined, and it was 10 more by the time I made it there, and I was watching it go up. So we're constantly tracking this. If we see that we need to tighten up or do something differently, this plan, I feel like, gives us opportunity to do that. And so it is a recommendation from them when it comes to that masking piece, and if necessary, we'd have to come back to that. But since it's not a requirement from them, I think, and I don't know if I want to totally speak for the board, but I think the board then feels as though, since there is opportunity there to attempt to not have to mask as many kids, that we'd like to do that if at all possible. Go ahead.
I mean, I think just with the guidance from our local health department and our nurse, this is where we choose to be right now. It's not to say we're going to stay there, but at this time, this is where we choose to be. So Thank you. Next question. Yes, Jeff?
Sorry. Okay. The thing that makes me nervous when you say symptom-free, who's deciding when they're symptom-free? Because that's to me, I'm symptom-free a lot of times of everything. I really don't get sick very often, other than the cancer I had. So you're asking a kid to decide whether they're feeling symptoms or not. I know a lot rides on the parents, but ultimately the kid says, oh, my stomach hurts. Well, some kids might say, I'm fine. Then you put pressure on kids that are athletes, that as an athlete, you went through the grind. You were sore some days. You didn't feel good some days, but you still went through it. Back in the days when I played, you did that because that was how it was. And you didn't have to worry about these kind of things back then. So now you're putting a lot of onus on a kid to decide when he's developing symptoms. I think that's a really scary area.
Is that a question?
I don't know if that's a question. I just think that's a statement that's where we're getting into where we're getting.
I'm allowed to. So to follow up with Jeff then, if we're allowing, or symptom-free, can we not temperature at the doors? Why aren't we doing that?
We've chosen not to at this time and haven't put it in this policy. I'm not saying that in the future there may not be something of that, but at this time we've chosen not to. We chose the option of try to, trust parents that if your kid's sick, keep them at home. And with that, there's not going to be a lot of, harassing kids if they're staying at home, why they're staying at home. If you're sick, stay at home. That's the best way to mitigate this. Don't come to school if you're sick. Please don't. When you get better, then come to school. And that's what we're after here. And we want the best health of all the kids. And that includes their educational health. And we know that suffers. And we want to try to get that back on track, along with keeping as safe as we can. Okay, comments from the public is closed at this time on that subject. So are there any board members that want to make comments? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to accept this policy update at this time. Elise Pratt has made the motion.
Seconded.
Seconded by Zach. All those in favor? 5, that's it. 5-0 vote. Okay, this policy passes. Do I understand that it goes into effect tomorrow, but anybody that's out, already quarantined, this will not affect until Wednesday, correct?
Correct.
Well, please, we really plead, with the community to do the right thing. If your kid's sick, keep them at home. We are not saying we're going out on a limb, but we are pushing the limits here and wanting to get kids in the building and keep them here. Please, everybody do their part. So that is all that's on the agenda. Are there any other public comments out there? We have a few minutes. Yes, ma'am?
Field, and I understand I don't want that because of the germs.
I understand that the idea behind your contact tracing. My concern is that my son is in the running for valedictorian. He cares more than any of my other boys have ever cared. If you're going to quarantine kids, and I understand from this what you're saying, but we need to prepare. And we had all of last year to prepare, that if you're going to
thank you for your comment. Mr. Schimpf, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, we have the capability to do that. I mean, there's no great trade for a teacher in a classroom, but we do end up in those situations where remote instruction occurs. It's happening all over the country and the world. The reality is we can record lessons. Part of why that push wasn't huge last year, even though we had that option, we had teachers recording things. Most days of the year, I'd say we had teachers recording something they were sharing with class on a Canvas page, Clever, elsewhere, is that it has to do with the amount of broadband capability that people have. And for us to push out a 60-minute lesson or 40-minute lesson for that, 30-minute lesson for that matter, 7 times a day, 6 times a day, it eats up data for people, and if they don't have high speed, then the expectation becomes one that's not attainable for a high percentage of the class. And so that's part of why that's not been a huge focus. We know we can do it better, and there have been preparations going on. I will speak for the teachers that they have worked their tails off in regard to that. Now, does it always come through on the other end? Sometimes students think their assignments were a whole lot easier than sitting in class, and I believe that a lot of the time because that can be the case. But I too had a high performer at home who spent hours upon hours last year, Saturday, Sunday, late nights, early mornings, online trying to do her work. And it's one of those many really frustrating things as a parent, because you've got this driven student and they want the knowledge, and it's absolutely what we want as an educator, is somebody who wants to hear it, and you know, they're singing in the choir. And so it's hard that doesn't hit the same level that we want with them in the classroom. The teachers have worked at it, and we're going to keep working at it until it's better. It won't be best. Yeah.
Just to follow up on her point, it wouldn't have to necessarily be live stream. If there was a way to record it, then it would be the student or the household's option to download it or watch it on a SharePoint file or something
Sure.
like that, whether it be a WebEx or Zoom. And then it's up to them whether they want to run up the broadband or the data plan, look at that.
Yeah.
If it was accessible through, say, SharePoint file or something like that, then it's their choice to bring it down. So it would have to be something that would be live streamed.
Teachers,
Would it,
sorry.
I can appreciate that. All I'm asking is looking forward, because that wasn't an option for him in this last few days. We need to prepare, because we've had since last March, and the nurses have been able to prepare. We need to be ready.
thank you.
So, Mr. Allenbaugh, for teachers, would it be easier if those classrooms were taped or however, so you wouldn't have all 3 areas that you had to cover? You got it with one. If the classroom was taped, one time you're giving the lesson.
I'm not ready for that. I think the comment's been heard on that. Next comment, please. Yes, Mr. Allenball.
Soon as you want. Soon as you would like. Yeah, soon as you want.
Yes. No, please,
Not very well.
please stand up or get the microphone so we can
There
hear
is
you.
another microphone up here too, if you like.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
This isn't about COVID, but I'll spin off of your guys' COVID paper where you guys came up with the conclusion that parents have the ultimate responsibility when it comes to the health of their student. And after I talk about this, I hope that we can find that common ground and the same conclusion after this. But my wife and I worked all day. We just found out this was going on today, so we jotted a few notes down real quick. This is very personal to us, so I hope I can keep it together. But I'm Adam Overpeck. For those of you who don't know, we have a son in the Young Fives class at Turkey Run. It's been brought to our attention that the teacher is reading and intends to read gender identity and books featuring LGBTQ plus characters. And I'm just going to read one of the titles and the Amazon reviews off of it. The first one's called The Prince in the Night. The first review states, a queer-friendly fairy tale. The second, a colorful and entertaining tale exploring sexuality, acceptance, and young love. Remember, this is Young Fives. Third, an illuminating tale for young readers to see that not every prince wants a princess. The second book, which we believe has probably already been read, but I'm only going to speak 100% truth tonight, and I don't know that to be 100% truth. So this book deals with gender identity. Dazzling Travis. The book states, I am who I am. There's no boy line or no girl line. I'll repeat that. There is no boy line or girl line. And I can pretend that I'm a knight, a king, or a queen. I only know one way to interpret this myself. I don't know how my son would interpret that. It would probably go way over his head, to be honest. But me and my family cannot take the chance on how he will interpret these books. These are topics that my wife and I have addressed with the teacher, we have addressed with the principal. Our main concern is they're not age appropriate to start with. This is Young Fives. Topics of sexuality should not be presented at this age, but if so, as a parent, I should at least have the right to consent or opt out of these discussions. We feel that personal beliefs are not to be shared in the classroom. It's been made very clear to us from this teacher that this is a priority to her, and this is the agenda she wants to push to us. That is scary. We expect academics to be taught. We have voiced our concerns. I've already said that. We've tried to sit down personally discuss this because I believe we could have got somewhere personally without having to do this, because we probably have a lot more in common than people would ever think. We believe this type of freedom in the classroom to teach whatever the teacher feels appropriate is reckless. We do not take this issue lightly. If we as a community cannot stand up and protect the most innocent class in this community, then what are we even here for? So the teacher once said in an email she wants to be inclusive. We don't feel very inclusive right now. Our views, our religious views, feel like they're being pushed out. That is not being inclusive. Don't get me wrong, I want this school corporation to succeed. I did not want to bring this upon our school. There is many teachers, even sitting in here, that helped me get through hard times, coached me. The school means a lot to me. I want them to succeed, but if this continues, there is no way, we've already pulled our son. There's no way he's coming back. And I'm sorry to bring this upon our school. That's all I got.
So I think we appreciate your comment, appreciate letting us know. I mean, from our standpoint, I think we just become aware on Friday, so we don't really know. And I think the best action is to meet with Mr. Schimpf and go forward and see how you guys handle it. And then from there, then it becomes a board decision after that. So that would be, I'd recommend action is to meet with Mr. Schimpf next.
And I thank Mr. Schimpf for the phone call today. We really appreciated that.
No, thanks for the conversation. I think we've got to continue the conversation so that we can all get on the same page. My understanding at this point, these books are not currently being used. That's my understanding at this point. But that doesn't mean that we don't need to continue a conversation and make sure that what we're doing is in line with community values. And at the same time, if there is a way to teach the topic in such a way that isn't offensive to any group, well, that's kind of the point of the whole inclusion process, right? So we've got to work to try to get there, and I'll be willing to listen to whoever wants to come into my office. You can give me a call, my door's open. Like I said, Adam, we had a good talk earlier, you and your wife, and I'm happy to talk to whoever wants to talk about it. And we'll try to get somewhere where we can all feel like at least the progress was made that needed to be made for what you feel like is appropriate for your student, because it's your student, and that's the number one thing in this world to each of us, right, is our kids. So that's where it starts. So my door's open.
Okay, thank you for the comment. Any other comments?
I'll go off that. I'm Cole Evelyn. Griffin Evelyn is my son. He is in the same class as Jace. What kind of time frame are we looking at? Because my family sits pretty close to this situation as well, and it hits us pretty hard in the heart because we put a lot of time and effort not being from this area, picking the right school, and we actually let our son make the choice, and we felt really good about our decision. I'm questioning that. I understand. I work for Duke Energy. Chad knows me. Several of you guys probably know me as well. I know diversity and inclusion. It doesn't have to be a sex. It doesn't have to be a race. It doesn't have to be a color. It's teaching our kids that we're all equal. We don't have to promote kids standing in an opposite bathroom line. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I sure as heck don't want that. You know, I got a little girl, 6 months. She gets old enough, she goes to the game. We keep letting this go. At what point does the pervert from Walmart walk in and stand next to her? She's sitting there going to the bathroom. I draw the line. Hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn being new to this community. That's my son. That's my best friend. I don't want to promote something that's going to haunt him in the future. It's okay by treating everybody equal, whether we're the same color, same nationality, whether we have the same likes and dislikes. It doesn't have to be that direct in kids' books, and it shouldn't be presented in young fights. That's all.
Thank you for your comment. I think Mike would work on a timeline with you quickly.
I think time is of the essence here, right? So it's not something we want to wait around on, but we've got to try to get as informed as we can on it so we can make the best decisions possible, and that comes from conversation. So thank you for bringing that up as well.
Any other comments? Yes?
So, I have a daughter in class also. I just asked Mr. Schimpf to improve that conversation with all parents in the class, so that they can all be a part of that conversation. So be inclusive of all those parents in that class, at least, if not everybody.
Okay.
I'll have to try to figure out what that looks like. Give me some time, because the last thing we want to do is point anything at an individual teacher and say some teacher's trying to, we need to get the full lay of the ground and understand what's really going on, and to have the whole class conversation, I'm going to have to figure out what that looks like. So, but that's a good point. And so I'm writing a note to try to figure out how to have that conversation.
My point is that not just one student is affected in that class, in a class is affected by whatever outcome or no outcome. So I would like the whole conversation, at least part of that class. So that's just my.
Thank you. Yes, Mrs. Benjamin?
Just to clarify, the books are not in the teacher's classroom. The books are not in her possession. Just to clarify, they are not in the building, they are not in the classroom.
Thank you, Mrs. Benjamin. Like I said, this subject is not, we're happy, we're glad we can listen to the comments to understand what's going on, but it's not in front of the board right now as far as us doing, that's for Mr. Shemp to get to the bottom of right now. To get to the bottom of, to sort out, to fact find, whatever you want to call it. So I don't see any other comments out there, so with that, public comments is closed. And there's nothing else on the agenda. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming. And we appreciate it. Have a good night.
You guys for your time.
Thank you.
Good job, guys. Very good.
Both of you, really. Good job, Mike. Thank you, Mike.